options for working the leg muscles, the glutes, the hamstrings. If you're doing a home workout, obviously if you're going to a gym, you have the opportunity to do leg presses, leg extensions, leg curls, but this would just be a dumbbell workout for the key muscles, particularly for cycling. Right, your deadlift, these are all bilateral movements. In other words, we're working both sides of the body at the same time. The second video, I will do unilateral, single leg movements. Okay, for a straight leg deadlift, we want to make sure that we maintain tall shoulders. The dumbbells are simply in the arms for somewhere to put them. We are keeping straight legs and we are hinging through the hip. Right, so we want to just let the dumbbell slide down the front of the legs until we can feel the hamstrings engaging. Our back should be nice and flat. We're going to pull the hip forward until we're into a tall position. So from this side, okay, the first thing we do is the butt goes back. We go down into a nice deep hinge. We pull the hips forward. Once the hips are up nice and tall, the glutes are engaged. And then we hinge down. Okay, so it's really important that you can feel the engagement of the hamstring and the glute, and that we get the body back up to the tall position so that the hip flexors are nice and long. Right, then we have what we call the bent leg version. All right, dumbbells in the same position. Obviously, you can use a barbell. This time we're going to go down with the legs bent. So the dumbbells are going to come across the front of the knees, and then we're going to stand up nice and tall. Okay, so drag them down, bend. It's still a hip hinge. If you look at it from the side, nothing much changing. Butt goes back, but we now bend the knees. It's almost like a squat, and then we bring the hips into that tall position. Up nice and tall. Okay, so straight leg version, bent leg version. Now we have what we call a narrow stance squat. So I'm going to position my legs slightly in front of each other. I'm going to still have my legs under my hips. I'm going to use a goblet hold with the dumbbell. I'm still using bilateral, so both quads are working in this move, just that they offset. I'm going to sink down and I'm going to drive up. Both legs are working. One is just very slightly loaded more than the other one. Still a hip hinge, and then I'd switch it out. Opposite leg in front, nice and tall, and I'm sinking my butt. So I sink and I drive. Also great move if you have knee problems. So this is a bilateral, just the back leg is slightly more loaded than the front. And then your normal traditional goblet squat, or you can do it as a normal dumbbell suitcase squat. Dumbbell on the chest, you want to make sure the chest stays nice and tall. The legs are naturally flared, so in other words, I'm slightly outside my hip line, my feet are slightly flared. The first thing I do is I do a very gentle tip, and then I sink. Right, I'm going to watch that I keep my knees out. Anybody that has a knee position coming in, it's an indication that the glute med is weak. Same position, I'm coming up tall. Okay, I tip, I sink, I drive, make sure the hips come up nice and tall. Tip, sink, drive, up nice and tall. Walking lunges, I'm going to demo without the weight. The walking lunge is the one lunge where we do lean slightly forward. Okay, so we take a nice long stride with a tall body. So I take a nice long stride. When I go down into that squat, I actually hinge forward over this leg. And then I drive with that front leg. Okay, so step, hinge, I lean, I'm over this leg, I drive up with this leg. Okay, so unlike a traditional upright squat, where we want to keep the body tall and we want to drop the back knee and we're driving on the front leg, in a walking lunge, we actually drive, we hinge, and then we press. Okay, hinge, press. So there is an angle on the body with the crease coming from the hip. Then I like Calf raises, obviously we need calves, strong calves for cycling. When you're in this environment, if you don't have something to raise your feet on, we're just going to do a normal standing calf raise. You do it with a hammer hold, you can do it with, or a suitcase hold. You could also do it with a goblet hold. Okay, these ones you can get to a point where you load them pretty heavily. I'm demonstrating with very light dumbbells, but you do want to load this movement quite a bit. And then the final move for glutes, we want to do a glute bridge. And we're going to do the glute bridge with weight on the hips and with the 3 different leg positions. So I want to be down on the floor. I'm going to bring the weight onto the hips. The first bridge position is going to be with the knees normal position, in other words in line with the hips, and driving it up, getting those hips to come up nice and tall. The second position is with the feet together and the knees flared. So when we drive up, we get a lot more in the glute med and the adductor. So we're hitting these muscles in slightly different positions. And then the final position is the chair position, or the legs together. So ankles, knees, hips together, and driving up nice and tall. Right, so those are some options for in-home leg